discussion about the role of super PACs. And I am very proud to tell you that I am the only candidate running for president who does not have a super PAC. We made a decision when we began this campaign that we were not going to beg Wall Street or corporate America or billionaires for campaign contributions. And as of today, without a super PAC, we have received almost 8 million individual campaign contributions. Anybody know what that average contribution is? That's right. $27. And what that shows the world at a time when big money is dominating our political process, that you can run a strong, winning national campaign without begging billionaires for campaign contributions.
You know, this is why I love Bernie Sanders. Well, I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but the way Bernie funds his campaign solely by the American people is right at the top. In both 2016 and 2020, Bernie Sanders talked about how his campaign was about creating a political revolution in America. And what the political revolution is about is changing the way politics works in America. Right now, seemingly the entire Republican Party and seemingly almost the entire Democratic Party are bought off by big money interests. Politicians from both parties fund their campaigns by having super PACs and taking in huge sums of money from powerful special interests. And it isn't right. That's why it was so refreshing to see a candidate like Bernie Sanders come along in 2016 on the national stage and run a campaign for president funded completely by the American people, $27 apiece. And he did so again in 2020, breaking fundraising records left and right in the process. And it was just awesome because he proved that you don't have to sell out to big money interests in order to raise enough money to run a campaign. In fact, in 2020, he was raising more money than everybody, even though he was the only major candidate who wasn't funding his campaign via big money donors. Bernie Sanders was the only major candidate who funded his campaign solely by the American people. And that is extremely important because politicians represent the people who fund their campaigns. Politicians who fund their campaigns via the people represent the people. Meanwhile, politicians who fund their campaigns via wealthy campaign contributors represent wealthy campaign contributors. Money in politics is one of the biggest issues we face in America today. It has made it so the wealthy can buy politicians and elections. And unfortunately, they do. A lot. The wealthy try to buy influence with their money. And far too often, they are successful. In fact, we learned from a Princeton study that the desires of average Americans have virtually no impact on whether or not a policy is enacted. Meanwhile, we learned that the desires of the wealthy do have a direct impact on whether or not a policy is enacted. To exemplify, according to the study, ideally, if 0% of people wanted a policy to be enacted, it'd have a 0% chance of getting enacted. If 40% wanted a policy to be enacted, it'd have a 40% chance of being enacted, and so on and so on. So the resulting line, when charted out, ideally would move in an upward right direction. But the line of the average Americans does not do that. In fact, the line hardly deviates at all. In truth, according to the study, The desires of average Americans have virtually no impact on whether or not a policy is enacted. Meanwhile, the resulting line for economic elites, when charted out, does move in the general direction of the ideal, demonstrating that the desires of the wealthy do have a direct impact on whether or not a policy is enacted. And I think there is no greater demonstration of this, the power of money in politics, than the gross levels of income and wealth inequality in this country. Over the past 4 decades, the middle and working class of this country have seen a massive amount of their wealth get transferred to the people in this country that don't need it, and the wealthiest people in this country. And it isn't right. And unfortunately, people are really struggling as a result. We need to get money out of politics, and we need to create a government that works for all of us and not just the wealthy. And if we are truly serious about doing this, about creating a government and an economy that works for all of us and not just the wealthy, then we need to start electing politicians like Bernie Sanders who aren't bought off and fund their campaigns the right way, solely by the American people.